Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really getting into the foundations of modern Europe. We'll take your study notes covering that crucial time, 1945 to 1967, and pull out the core story. How did Europe, just after World War II, manage to shift from all that conflict towards building something new, something based on shared rules?
Yeah,
Our mission today is to trace that path, see how things move from just typical international cooperation to these actual European communities with real power. We're looking at the ideas, the first actions, and how the institutions sort of came together.
exactly. And you have to picture it. 1945, Europe is just devastated. The first thought was, okay, let's set up some standard international groups. Governments talking, cooperating, but everyone keeps their own final say. Intergovernmental stuff. But some people realized that wasn't enough. If the basic way countries dealt with each other didn't change, well, history might just repeat itself. They were searching for a way to build lasting peace.
Right. So our plan for today is pretty clear. We'll start with the big debate of ideas at The Hague in 1948. Then we'll look at the Schuman Declaration, which kind of set this strategy. And finally, we'll see how those first three communities were built and then brought under one institutional roof with the merger treaty in '67. Okay, let's kick off with that first big moment, the Hague Congress, 1948. People often call it the first federal moment for Europe. It's where different visions for the future really clashed. If you're studying this, you absolutely need to know the three main ideas on the table.
Yes, absolutely crucial. So first up, you had the confederal vision. Think people like Churchill, de Gaulle, wartime leaders, very influential. Their view was, let's be cautious. Closer cooperation, sure. But Europe should basically be like a club of nations. National governments stay firmly in charge. Cooperation, yes. Giving up sovereignty. Not really.
Okay, the cautious approach. What was the opposite end?
That was the Federalist vision. Thinkers like Spinelli, they were much more radical. They basically said, look, nation-states cause these wars. So their solution, get rid of them. Well, not entirely, but create a single European federal state right away. The old countries would become more like regions within this new federal structure.
Wow, that's ambitious. A beautiful idea, maybe, but probably a tough sell right after a war where national feeling was so strong.
Exactly. Politically, it just wasn't going to fly then. Which leads us to the third way, the one that actually happened. The functionalist vision. This was championed by Robert Schuman, among others. It's much more pragmatic. The idea was you can't build Europe all in one go. You have to do it step after step. Start with practical things, economic cooperation in specific areas, build trust and connection slowly.
And the key innovation here, the thing that made this functionalist path different, was this idea of supranationalism. Right. That word keeps coming up.
It's the absolute core concept, supranationalism. It's what makes the EU or the communities back then so unique. Think about it. Traditional international groups usually need everyone to agree. Any country can veto. Supranationalism is different. It means countries voluntarily give real independent power to new shared institutions like the Commission eventually. And these institutions can then make decisions, sometimes by majority vote, that are actually legally binding on the member countries. That goes way beyond simple cooperation. It's a real transfer of power.
Hold on, though. How did they sell that? Countries that just fought a massive war over sovereignty, suddenly agreeing to hand over control of important stuff, like coal and steel, to some new unelected body like the High Authority. That sounds incredibly risky, almost contradictory, isn't it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the genius of Schuman's plan was its focus. It started small, very specific, coal and steel. These were, yes, vital resources, the stuff you needed for industry, but also for war. By pooling them, the economic benefits and, crucially, the guarantee against future war between, say, France and Germany, seemed to outweigh the political cost of giving up just a little bit of sovereignty in that one area.
So it was limited, manageable.
Precisely, sectorial. That made it politically possible. But that tension it created between national control and this new supranational power, that's been the story of European integration ever since, really.
Okay, makes sense. So let's follow that functionalist path. We jump to 1950, the Schuman Declaration. This really locked in that strategy.
Yes, the declaration was huge. It had a clear short-term goal. Make war between France and Germany physically impossible by managing coal and steel together. Simple, powerful. But it also had this bigger long-term vision to lay the groundwork for an ever closer union between the peoples of Europe. It was setting a direction.
And it famously said Europe wouldn't be built instantly, right?
Exactly that famous quote. Europe will not be made all at once or according to a single plan. It will be built through concrete achievements which first create a de facto solidarity. Practical steps first. Build real links on the ground.
And Schuman also stressed the need for institutions, didn't he? Nothing can last without institutions.
To give form to men's will? Yes. Ideas are great, but you need structures to make them stick. And that led directly to the first big concrete achievement, the European Coal and Steel Community, the ECSC, set up by the Treaty of Paris in 1951.
The ECSC, the first real test.
Absolutely. The pilot project for supranationalism. You had the 6 founding states, France, Germany, Italy, and the Benelux countries, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg. They agreed to manage their coal and steel industries together. This wasn't just economic, it was deeply political. By pooling the raw materials of war, they made it physically harder for any one of them to secretly gear up for conflict against the others.
Got it. And for anyone making note, the ECSC had some specific features.
Yes. Importantly, it was set up for a limited time, 50 years. It actually expired, mission accomplished, you could say, in 2002. And its initial institutions were key. The High Authority, that's the powerful supranational body, plus a council representing the member states, a parliamentary assembly, and a court of justice to sort out disputes.
Okay, so memory tip. ECSC equals industry unity.
Good one. Industry unity.
Right. Fast forward 6 years. 1957, the Treaties of Rome. Things must have been going okay if they decided to create 2 more communities. Confidence was growing.
Definitely. The success of the ECSC, despite challenges, built momentum. So in Rome, they launched Euratom, the European Atomic Energy Community.
Atomic energy, so another specific sector like coal and steel.
Exactly. Very sectorial, very defined. The goal was cooperative development of atomic energy, but strictly for peaceful uses, safety standards, research, that sort of thing.
And what was significant about Euratom compared to the ECSC?
A crucial legal point. Unlike the ECSC with its 50-year limit, Euratom was set up with no expiration date. That's a big signal. Meaning they intended this integration to be permanent, at least in these key areas. They weren't just experimenting anymore. And Euratom, dealing with atomic energy, is actually still legally enforced today, separate but alongside the main EU structures.
Interesting. Okay, so Euratom was specific. But the other community founded in Rome in 1957, that was the big one, wasn't it? The European Economic Community, the EEC.
Oh, absolutely. The EEC was the game changer. If ECSC was the test flight and Euratom a specific mission, the EEC was, like you said, the main launch.
Why was it so different?
Because its scope wasn't narrow or sectorial like the others. It was broad, horizontal. It had general goals aiming to create a common market across the board.
A common market, what did that mean in practice?
It meant tearing down trade barriers between the members, establishing what we now often call the 4 freedoms: free movement of goods, services, capital, and people. Plus, common rules on things like competition policy to make sure trade was fair. This wasn't just about one industry, it was about integrating whole economies. The EEC was the main vehicle intended to achieve that ever closer union through deep economic ties.
Right, so for our notes, EEC means market unity, much broader than just industry.
Perfect. EEC, market unity.
Okay, so let's recap where we are by, say, 1958. We have 3 European communities, ECSC, coal and steel expiring, Euratom, atomic energy permanent, and the big one, the EEC, common market permanent, all founded by the same 6 countries. But they were technically separate. That sounds messy. Did they have like 3 sets of everything?
Well, yes and no. It was messy institutionally. They did share the Court of Justice and the Parliamentary Assembly right from the start, more or less. But the executives, that was the problem. You had 3 separate councils, one for each community, representing the member state governments. And crucially, you had 3 separate executive bodies: the ECSC's High Authority, and then 2 new commissions, one for Euratom and one for the EEC.
3 councils, 3 commissions, or high authorities.
Yeah.
Each with different powers based on different treaties. Wow.
Exactly. Different rules, different powers, potential for overlap or conflict. It clearly wasn't efficient or sustainable in the long run.
Which leads us, I assume, to the next logical step.
Precisely. It led to the merger treaty, which came into force in 1967. This was basically an administrative tidying up exercise, essential housekeeping.
Okay, the merger treaty.
Right.
The name sounds simple, merging things, but what exactly got merged? And maybe just as important, what didn't?
Good question. What merged were the executive institutions. The 3 separate councils were fused into a single council. And the ECSC High Authority and the 2 commissions were merged into a single European Commission. So from 1967 onwards, you had 1 council and 1 commission serving all 3 communities. You also got a single administrative budget. It made the whole setup much more coherent, streamlined things enormously.
Okay, so single institutions. But, and if I feel like this is the tricky bit people might miss, did this mean the rules of the ECSC, Euratom, and EEC all got merged into one big rule book?
No, absolutely not. And that is the critical point to grasp about the merger treaty. The institutions became single, unified bodies, one commission, one council. But the powers they used, the rules they applied, still depended entirely on which treaty framework they were acting under. So the single commission might make a decision about steel production, and when doing so, it had to follow the specific, quite strict rules laid out in the ECSC treaty. Then, maybe later that day, the same commission might make a decision about, say, competition policy affecting the whole common market. For that, it would use the broader powers given to it by the EEC treaty. The legal basis remains separate.
That's a really important distinction. Unified bodies, but still operating under three distinct sets of legal powers.
Got it. So our final memory tip for this period, merger treaty equals institutional unity, but the legal powers stayed separate.
Institutional unity is the perfect way to remember it. Great. Well, we've covered a lot of ground there. From the ashes of war in 45, through that clash of big ideas at The Hague, seeing the functionalist step-by-step approach win out, leading to the ECSC, then Euratom and the big EEC, and finally sorting out the institutional setup with the merger treaty in 1967. We've really traced that blueprint.
It really is an incredible period, 45 to 67. It shows this deliberate, successful shift away from just talking from traditional diplomacy towards building something radically new. A system based on supranationalism. They genuinely used economic cooperation, pooling coal, steel, atoms, creating a common market as the practical tool to try and guarantee political peace. And, well, it set a course that continues today.
It really did. A story of pragmatism winning out, perhaps, that functionalist idea of not all at once, but building through concrete steps. Thinking back over that whole period, especially how quickly things moved from 51 to 57, what stands out as maybe the most striking political signal they sent.
That's a great question. For me, perhaps it's the leap to the EEC, moving beyond the relative safety of specific sectors like coal, steel, or even atomic energy into the vast, open-ended project of a full common market. That commitment by 1957 by those same 6 countries to integrate their entire economies with binding rules and a powerful court that felt like they weren't just testing the waters anymore. It felt like a deep, almost irreversible choice about a shared future. That speed and depth of commitment so soon after the war.
Yeah, that's probably the most remarkable thing. Definitely something for you to think about as you look at what came next.